Ready to go? Yeah. All right. Everybody, welcome. It is 7:01 on March 29th, and I'm calling to order the Town of North Andover Finance Committee. Our first item, well, call to order is our first item of business. Our second item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have 8 people, so we have a quorum. I will go to the next item on our agenda. It is to open a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 23 operating budget and capital improvement plan. Public hearing is now open. Next order of business is public comment. Do we have anyone in the public who may have a comment or may not? Nope, may. I knew it.
Am I a lucky guy?
You are. We're the lucky people, Stan.
Since I get to be the public, right? Stan Limpert, 43 Stonecleave Road. So I'm guessing maybe I could ask more than one question since
You
I'm
can
the
ask.
public?
You absolutely.
Okay. So the first question that I have been thinking about is the question of free cash and budgeting, right? There's been some discussion over the years about the fact that when we have started to build up our levels of free cash at the end of the year, that may indicate that we could have thought differently about how we budgeted for that year. In some cases, of course, we've had windfall revenue that we couldn't have anticipated, so it went to free cash. But have you, the Finance Committee, given that any thought about budgeting versus the level of free cash? Now, what I've been told is that the guideline is sort of 5% of revenue, or 5% of the budget.
Yeah.
So for us, that would be maybe a number like $6 million. So
I will tell you, and obviously I'll tell you my thoughts on that. So not this year, but last year, I believe I asked the exact same question to our town manager and finance director and got the answer, I think, that you just gave.
Okay.
Which is, we'd like to keep it at that percentage when possible. Obviously, there are windfalls, there are things that happen that sort of at the last minute or whatever that precipitate a larger percentage or a smaller percentage. But so that is my understanding, and I've not, and in my estimation, that was a good, I understood that and was accepted that. But it has been something that I have asked about in the past and thought about. And I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts or. Nope.
Yeah. And I think, certainly our town manager and finance director, have been wisely investing the free cash in various things, various sort of capital projects. So that seems like a very logical thing to be doing with that money when we get it. Question number 2 is sort of budget resilience. So when Merrimack College buys Royal Crest and starts their project under the Dover Amendment and takes all that stuff off the tax rolls.
Just to be clear, this is
hypothetically.
Hypothetically. Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. If
I saw some heads turn when I
Merrimack College were to buy the Royal Crest property and to take all of that off the tax rolls, which is some number, and I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming it's in hundreds of thousands, not dollars, right?
I think that's right, yeah.
What's the resilient, we don't know when that's going to happen. They're not probably telling us when they're going to do that. What's the resiliency we have in the budget? Because that would have a revenue impact immediately, or could have. I doubt it would be an immediate impact, but it would be sometime, at some point, it would clearly have an impact, right?
Yeah, no, I think it would have an impact. I don't know what that impact would be, but I think that it would come at a future date with enough time to plan against what that impact would be.
We would hope so.
Yeah, no, but hold on. Our town finance director does have some.
So when something like that happens, when something comes off the tax roll,
Yeah.
it doesn't change how much we raise. We have to still raise the same amount. It just gets distributed amongst the other people within the town. The residents and the commercial properties will.
Really?
There you
Yes,
go.
that's how that works. No different like with Amazon,
Does
things
it-
like
Right,
that.
of course,
How
yeah.
does it do? Does it change the tax rate, or what is it?
It will change the tax rate, yes.
In-
Yep, and it'll be
interesting.
redistributed. Yep, that's the way it works in every municipality, and that's the way it's built.
Really?
Yep, yep. So when when Amazon came on board, it reduced everybody's tax rate because Amazon picked up a bigger portion of it. So now, no different than when the TIF starts coming on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it will change the tax rates.
So our
If
taxes will
something
go
like
down
that was
because they'll pay more money.
Right, so when something like that happens,
Isn't that
it would,
interesting? I
it would
didn't know
shift
that.
it to, and be redistributed. We don't lose, it isn't going to affect the budget, but as financial individuals and the town manager, we'll notice that and recognize that, and we'll manage the budget accordingly, so the impact isn't as big.
And that happens sort of automatically? or
Yeah,
it's-
well, we would know something like that
Bless you.
would
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
happening,
Oh, of
so we
course.
would plan accordingly.
I didn't-
Right, yes, that's the way that works.
Wow,
Yep.
that's really interesting.
Thank you, Lynn.
So that's actually worse than I thought. So we have to pay for that now.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, that we,
Wow.
The town does not have control over that sort of a property or
that's
purchase,
interesting.
and all
That's
of that was
interesting.
wiped away when it was voted down, and we lost all control over that.
My third question is about metrics. Having been on the school committee for a few years, the school committee is often judged based on metrics, expenditures per pupil, various things. Has the finance committee given any thought to try to apply metrics to other, like, town departments, like public safety, DPW, like, we pay X, we get Y? Is that getting better or worse if the numbers change? Do we get more services or less services?
Right,
Have
so-
you all thought about trying to do any kind of analysis like that?
not as a full committee, no. I know that there have been some individuals who have thought about that.
Yeah.
And have struggled with how that could be implemented and how that could inform decisions and that sort of thing. So I think, that's not something we've discussed, unless, I guess, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but not something we've discussed as a committee, certainly not this year and not the prior couple years.
Okay.
So that may have been something the committee has talked about before. It's something that personally I have thought about. I've seen in other towns, or maybe not seen, but heard about in other towns.
Right.
I'm just not sure
Yeah.
how to implement that, and I think we would,
Do you recall what they measured? outside
I
of-
don't know, I don't.
Do you have any, were there any
Some,
suggestions? or
yeah,
things that-
sometimes it's, like, for example,
you're fine.
fire department, it's, the cost for fire department calls that's normalized per capita, right? So you're trying to, so we can compare ourselves to other towns, right? With the school department, it's like cost per pupil, and we can normalize that. So it's some kind of metrics that would give us, one, some idea of how we're spending our money, and two, give us the
Performance.
chance to compare to another community. So like, how do we compare to our adjacent communities? And we, our administration has a set of towns that it compares us to, that it uses for kind of benchmarking. And so we could do that for any department if we wanted to. We create some metrics and then try to generate those same metrics on the public information for those towns.
I don't want to speak out of hand, but when I was on the select board, we definitely have done that and do that with
Okay.
different departments, look at how we compare to other towns, and I know, like, calls per,
Yeah.
whatever, to public safety, for example, was one thing I remember looking at when I was on the select board. So the select board does look at some of that. I don't
Okay.
think that we've made a linkage to the funding or the spend, because
Right.
in a lot of ways, to me anyway, it's hard to make the linkage that
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
yeah.
the number of fires is not really linked to money or what, you know what I mean? It's
No.
it's challenging, I think, in a lot of ways to link the finances. But anyway, I would just say you can also.
Some of that is done.
Some of that is done and available.
Okay.
from the select.
Yeah,
board. At least 3 years ago it was.
okay, yeah, I don't recall any numbers like that, but I'm not saying they aren't available.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's worthy of a discussion. I think, we're late, and I know you know this, we're late in the game to do that anytime soon, but, I think that's worthy to put on an agenda and have a discussion about that amongst us to see if that's something that we could all agree on, to see if it's worthwhile, to see if it's implementable.
I think one example of where that actually was a useful thing was last year or the year before, one of the 2 years, the fire department came in and showed their statistics. That how dramatically things had changed, and used that to justify a staff increase,
Yep.
which seemed completely reasonable at the time because, it seemed really, their data was very concrete.
Yep.
They had seen a dramatic jump in the work that they needed to do. So, it seemed
Yeah.
kind of a no-brainer that they needed more people to do that. So that to me was a good example of kind of a data-driven decision that made it really easy, I think, for everybody to say, yeah, that makes complete sense to us,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where maybe some of that data could help. And, to Ms. Keene's point, yeah, it's not, you can't tie dollars to police tickets, citations. Yeah, I get that. But, kind of on a relative basis, and, in the back of our annual reports, we always show those sort of statistics over time. And we can also look at budgets over time and say, how does those compare?
Yeah.
It's just,
No, it's good.
stuff to think about.
I think
Right.
that is good stuff to think about and for us to discuss and consider, for sure.
The other, so my last question is, recently someone had said to me, the time to worry about things like budgets are when things are going really smoothly, right? So we've had a really good run now for a while. I mean, it's been going really well, and our town administration, our town manager, our finance director, everybody's been really, doing good stuff for us. And, all the departments, I think, have been doing well, and they've been getting things that they needed. And, so that's all good. So, maybe I shouldn't be too paranoid, but, it's something, it can't go on forever. And then, how do we start to think about that if the string runs out, right? Then how do we do that? I mean, it's not the budget we're looking at, obviously, because it's a
Right.
done deal. But, you all see the town manager's 5-year forecast. And like everyone we've seen since Mr. Mailer started doing that, at the end, it always looks dismal, right? We have this giant hole 5 years out there that I don't know how we're going to fill. And that never seems to happen. But, it's just a wake-up call for us to think about. But, maybe one of those years, something like that might start to happen.
Yeah, I think, the town manager and the finance director have come in here numerous times and explained to us how they do prepare for
Yeah.
those,
Yes, yes.
potential pitfalls,
Yes, yes.
right? And I think, at least to my satisfaction, and I won't speak for everybody, but, I'm satisfied that they are taking that into account and,
Yep.
and looking at that and planning and thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that for
absolutely.
sure.
Of course
Yeah.
they are. Of course they are. But
And I know you're not saying they're not.
yeah, no, yeah, but I, at the same time, I guess of necessity, they have a short-term focus. They're a next year out focus, right? They got to worry about that, right? That's their next thing on the docket. And you all could take a different view, a longer-term view, and do a different kind of an analysis. Not unlike what the town manager does with her 5-year forecast, but maybe think of it in a different way, or look at different options, or think about different things. It's just because you all, you do a couple of things, but one of the things is the Savage comes with her thing and she shows it to you, and you go like, wow, that looks really good. We're happy. Thank you very much. We'll vote for that at town meeting. We're good, right? But maybe there's something else that we could be thinking about, like how about 3 years from now, or 2 years
Yeah.
from now, or what happens if Amazon has a hiccup, or I don't know, something,
Yeah.
some deal, right?
I got you, yeah.
So I mean, it's something that you all could be advising us on as the group, the
Yeah.
committee that can help the town think into the future about finance, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's good.
just saying.
I like
Okay.
it. Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it.
Representing the public?
We'll go and ask Lynn, but, can you do this for us?
You know, she would be standing up if I was saying something stupid or.
Well, you were never in danger of doing that, Stan. No, 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 no. No. All right, so thank you again, Stan, appreciate that. And I think those are all worthy of consideration and discussion for us and you know, trying to find a way to implement those fully or partly or, you know, maybe not at all after more discussion.
Or just think about it.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Right? I don't know where that
100%. I appreciate it. Okay, so with that, we have no other public comment, so we'll move to the next agenda item, which is a vote on the fiscal year 23 operating budget. I think we have now, yes, I do have to close the public hearing. Thank you to the public for reminding me. So now if I could please have a motion to close the public hearing on the Finance Committee. I see Eva has so moved, and do we have a second? Second by Keith at 7:17. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the public hearing is now closed on the fiscal year operating budget and capital improvement plan. Okay. So now we'll move on to a vote on the fiscal year 23 operating budget. So this is a document that we have spoken to many folks about and looked at from all angles and sides, I think. So now I would like to formally, you know, request that we vote to recommend passage of the fiscal year operating budget at town. That's not on here. Okay. Thank you. That's not included in the operating budget?
It is, but just in the wording of a motion.
Okay, okay. So, thank you, Lynn, I appreciate that. So if we could have a motion for a favorable or not favorable report from the Finance Committee on the fiscal year 23 operating budget and enterprise funds.
24.
Fiscal year 24.
That's a typo.
Sorry, yeah.
This is not my night. This is
Okay,
not
we're all
my
sitting here
night.
going, yeah, 23, so yeah.
All right, that is, man, I'd like to rewind. Let's start this over again. Okay, so now, if I could please have a motion on a favorable or unfavorable vote, a recommendation from the Finance Committee on the fiscal year 24 operating budget and enterprise funds, I would appreciate that. So if any, so moved for a favorable report
Favorable recommendation.
of the fiscal year 24 operating budget and enterprise funds. Do I have a second?
There you go.
Dustin, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so at 7:19, we have all voted unanimously to vote favorably the fiscal year 24 operating budget. Okay, and enterprise funds. So next we have to vote on the individual warrant articles that have a financial impact. So Jillian included these, a copy of the draft, nope, that's the wrong document. The draft warrant in our packets. So if you'll look, they have the general articles are 1 through 12. So they have citizen petitions 13 through 17, and then the financial articles begin at number 18 and go through 30. So we'll have to vote on a recommendation for each one independently. So we're going to have a bunch of motions here, and I apologize, 13, I apologize for that, but just the way we have to do it. Now, these articles all encompass parts of the budget that we have discussed that we have probed and had the town manager, the finance director, and others come in to talk to us about. So these, none of these are new. None of these have not been up for discussion or anything like that, where we have the conservation, preservation, the Community Preservation Committee came in last time, and the chairman spoke to the committee about that. So these are all, we are all very familiar with these, or should be. So the first article is 18, which is an appropriation for the capital improvement plan for fiscal year '24. So do we have a motion for a recommendation on this article?
Sorry,
just-
before you go
Oh,
there, are
sorry.
we not doing two because we're waiting on the select board? Sometimes we wait on the select board to.
Authorization of town administrator on the contracts in excess of 3 years.
Like, I'm just scrolling through and looking at each one that requires a finance committee recommendation.
Yes. No. Well, that one's not on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
So we're going to do 18 through 30
Oh, the agenda just says
We're
specific.
to the
Okay.
fiscal ones, yeah. So we have the opportunity to come back and do those before town meeting, other additional ones. I guess what I'm saying is 18 through 30 is what we're being at. I don't know that it is. I would agree. Okay, well then let's do it. Let's do it. We'll
there are
start
warrant articles that impact finances that aren't just in the finance section, and we normally make a recommendation.
Correct.
I just don't recall if we wait for the select
We don't
board
need
to
to.
make their recommendation
We don't
first
need to.
by protocol,
I'm not that I'm aware of.
Right, I noticed that.
So we don't really have those parsed in front of us then?
Well,
So
they're
that
all
one we
in-
don't, right.
Wait. What do you mean? She sent the entire warrant, so.
Yes, I know that, but I mean, I'm just saying,
Yep.
it's just nice to have them all grouped together so that we don't miss anything. Do you know what I mean? Rather than us parsing through it, it's to have it in front of us
Finance
to know.
committee, hold
what
on,
we're gonna do.
2, 3, 5.
I mean, whatever, we can come back and do it
6.
later.
Hold on, 6, 7, 8. Okay, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to do 18 through 30 with no objection. Those are the ones for sure, okay?
Yep.
There are definitely, it appears at first glance to be some, Regina, as you pointed out, that we will have to give a recommendation on in the first tranche here, right? But
You would like to wait.
I'd like to wait
Okay.
on those. We have another full meeting before the warrant articles, and we also have a meeting prior to town meeting that we can give our recommendations on. So we have 2 more opportunities, and I want to be sure that we are all in agreement with the town manager and the finance director that these are ones. Again, they clearly appear to be to me,
Okay.
but does anybody have any objections with that? No.
Do we need dollar amounts attached to any of these before we approve or disapprove? Just asking?
No, we just need to make a recommendation.
Okay.
No? So, sorry for that.
So
So
I
we
would
get back-
move that we recommend favorable action on Article 18, the appropriation to capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Eva. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We will recommend Article 18 in a favorable report. Okay. Article 19 is a report of the Community Preservation Committee, appropriation from the Preservation Fund. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Has
So-
anything changed since our last meeting?
No.
Nothing
No.
has changed at all?
Nope.
I don't support all of the articles. I support some. So I don't know whether we want to discuss that and parse it out, or whether I honestly, it's not usual that
I would agree.
we cherry pick.
I've not, having served on the CPC before this committee, I'm not aware of that happening.
but,
So,
you
well,
know-
then let's go through it. Why, which ones?
Two in particular jump out to me. I mean, there were some interesting ones, I think. But the two in particular were the restoration of the boundary wall and the preservation of the barn at 419 Johnson Street. You know, I'll step back a little bit and look a little like somewhat historically over, you know, what we do with the CPC, which is, again, you know, it's a group, they work so hard. You know, they have a lot that comes in front of them, and they do the best they can to, you know, parse out what they do. And we're so fortunate that we have a lot of funds to parse out. So it's not like, you know, they're doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. But when you look over, I just went over the last several years, because they have a whole history. That's the other thing, is lately, last couple of years, they've been very transparent about what they've had to do, which is a marvelous thing. I was able to actually do a little bit of research. And over the last 8 years, so that's a little bit more, much more recent history for them. The amount of funds that they have been appropriating, in particular to the Ridgewood Cemetery Association. I mean, it's a beautiful place. They've made it beautiful. They've done wonderful things with the money, but it's been increasing at a very high rate. Let's see, how did I do it? I just went out and tried to find like what kind of an average it was per year. And if you include this year's appropriation, they average out about $450,000 a year towards the cemetery, which is like, wow, that's quite a bit of money. And I don't know whether, is this how we really want to be as a town spending these monies? I know there's restrictions. I would love to see more go towards senior housing. I know that that's not even in their purview to do that. You know, so that you can't criticize them for that. But again, you know, we're in a housing crisis now. Perhaps more of that money should go towards affordable housing. And when you look over those same 8 years as to what has gone towards the entire group of affordable housing, mind you, Ridgewood Cemetery Restoration is only a small portion of the historic preservation. But going to affordable housing, their average is about $550,000 a year. So it's.
Is that including the allocations they have to make if they don't meet the percentage?
I'm including all of the
Okay.
allocations.
Okay.
In that 550, I was including, you know, even the extra 200,000 was going into this past year. So, and not only that, but unfortunately because of COVID and a few other things that the Affordable Housing Trust, I mean the Affordable Housing, not the trust, but the allocation. They're like 1.7 million still looking to spend, so they haven't even spent all that money. So it's
The Affordable Housing Trust?
Well, no, the CPC money hasn't been allocated because they have projects that they wanted to do that had to be stopped because of supply.
Yep.
You know, the whole pandemic thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I look at it, it's just like, you know, it's hard for me to. I just think it's time to pause and think like, how much do we want to put in that direction? Do we, you know, the request this year is $730,000. It's a lot of money. Is this how we really want to be spending all of these funds? And it's like, and maybe we do. Maybe these projects are so compelling that that's what we want to do. But one of these projects is a stone wall that can't be seen from the road, and it's just a stone wall. I don't see the overall wonderful benefit to the community at large to restore a stone wall, which is quite expensive. And the other is, you know, the barn. They bought property, and I don't know whether the barn on it was labeled historic before or after they bought the property, but it is now, so it qualifies. I don't know that that's any more worthy than a painting on a wall.
I mean, Chris, it's interesting that you would pick those two to comment on, because I was thinking about those two projects myself since the last meeting. My concern, I love the New England stone walls, and I think they're part of what makes this area a beautiful area. But I just feel that it's not visible to the public. It's like an interior, you know, between a private property and the cemetery, and so how many people are going to see that stone wall? And this is public money for public enjoyment, for public, you know, enjoyment of the historic preservation. So I just really struggled with that one myself, and then
It's the dollars that are attached to it too.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
it's
it's a
not, we're
substantial
not
amount of
talking
money.
like, say, $20,000 to,
Right.
refurbish the stones
Yeah.
at the, the old cemetery. It's not, it's a lot of money.
yeah. And I don't, it's not that I don't think it's worthy, I guess I'm just questioning, the cost benefit to the public of a wall that's not going to be seen. And then and I had the same thoughts about the barn as well, in that I think, if I remember correctly, the chair explained that they were going to use that barn to store equipment for the cemetery. So then again, if it was going to be restored for, I don't know, some use that the public would benefit from in some way, I
Yeah.
would be more inclined to
Yeah.
support it. But it feels like maybe it's not going to be
Feels like,
enjoyed by the public. So that's just my concern on
Yeah.
that one.
I mean, I just don't want it to be like, well, let's find things to spend money, can we just find things, because there's a lot of money, so we need to find things to spend the money on. I'd rather see it in reserve for a time that maybe we could buy a really large piece of property. Either, for open space or again,
Right.
for affordable housing. And you need a large lump of money to do
Right.
that. You could, you need maybe a couple million, and that's what the whole, trust, putting the money into the trust is to do, is so when those things pop up on the market, when that happens, wow, we have it available, we can do it. And because we've been prudent with this money. And that's a little bit more of what I would like to see happen with the money. And
Yeah, I agree.
I would also love it if again, this is a little bit out of turn, if we could change the rules for senior housing, and maybe the CPC could help us petition our legislatures to change the rules for how we handle senior housing, so that they have good sidewalks and roadways the same as the cemetery does, and they have rooms that are in good repair and good working air conditioning and heating and things like that. But that's a slightly different topic, and not something that we can affect here at this table now. But those are just my thoughts, and that's why I would say, yeah, I'd be looking to parse at it, because I'd like to see things go in a little bit different direction.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I was out of town on business and wasn't here for the.
You did not watch the meeting in your free time?
I'm sorry. Were these questions posed to the chair that night?
About those two projects, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
and what did he?
Oh, no, he recognized because I was the one that was talking about it, and Regina also, and
Yeah.
somebody else perhaps too, I don't remember, but it's not like it was something that wasn't brought up at their own meeting.
Okay.
And they were not unanimous votes, because I watched that meeting too, wanted to see what,
Yeah.
how they all felt. And they were not all in agreement about all of the projects either. So it didn't come out of the blue. There was a couple of members who talked at length about why are we doing these in particular. And there were other projects in there too that they talked at length about, the restoring of the big panel building for the trustees of the reservation, right? Is that what what was that thing?
The mural?
Yeah, the mural, yes.
I think the barn, the response was, it's a portion of money to keep it from falling in. We don't know what will be done with it later, but this buys time or something.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't want to spend, still a decent amount of money, still
Yes.
$200,000 to maybe, I don't know what.
Maybe keep something that maybe's going to be for maybe this or maybe that.
Right,
It's the bunch
yeah.
of maybes there.
Yeah, it's too
the,
many
it's
maybes.
too many maybes. It's
Yeah.
just, this is not something concrete. It isn't even like we want to buy this parcel and it's got something historic on it, and then coming beforehand saying, what
Right.
would we do with this historic piece if we, it's after the fact. I don't know.
And,
I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not trying to be disparaging of people who are even making the request. It's totally within their rights. Yes, this is what they're supposed to be doing, is asking.
Yeah, for sure.
But not every ask is a yes, so we all know that.
Definitely.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I was just gonna, I was getting a procedural question, so maybe if other people have comments on the rest of the items, I'll ask my procedural question after.
I have a question, I don't know if anyone here knows the answer to that, but don't they have to spend a certain amount per
They do.
year? So if they don't spend on these things, how would that work?
They don't have to spend a certain amount per year, they have to spend a certain percentage on each category, which is why they put an allocation towards affordable housing, because they didn't have a project, but they put an allocation.
Yeah,
I unfortunately don't remember the percentage that has to go for each category. I don't know, Lynn, if you know. 10%. 10%.
Yeah.
So they're already, right now, the recommendation is 62% historical. So by removing these projects, I don't think we're going to be in jeopardy of not making it 10%.
So it's 10% of the entire holding?
Yes.
Of the prior year revenue?
Oh.
Okay. That's, okay.
Oh, it's
That's
10%
different.
of the, okay.
Okay.
But anyway, 1.3 million is currently what they're recommending for historical preservation, which is 62%.
Yeah, and I
So-
guess the one thing here I would say is, you know, I think we would all like to see, you know, there be more housing, more money for housing preservation, affordable housing or whatever, but if those projects don't come to their committee, they can't invent them, right?
No, they can't, but that's in the affordable housing case, that's why they put money every year towards the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right.
And they did 100,000 last year,
Yep.
and this year they're doing 200,000. I heartily applaud them, but why not put $500,000 in? If you've got this much, why not put that in? Because that means that next year or the year after, when a property comes up, I mean, that's part of it, is North Andover buy a house, you know, and that's how that works. It's not like you know,
For the affordable housing trust, didn't you say they had $1 million that they were waiting to spend?
yeah, not on the purchase of a piece of property.
Gotcha. So
There
it's
are other-
encumbered for
Yes,
projects.
that is correct.
Gotcha.
Encumbered for other projects. As far as I could see, I mean, you know, I'd have to go back
Yeah, yeah.
and parse
No,
through it again.
yeah.
But that's what it appeared to be. But that's all I'm saying, is that, you know, having the money, you know, I'd like to see, you know, $1 million sitting in the Affordable Housing Trust, and so like, we could all be very aggressive about saying like, hey, to the housing authority, what are you doing, you know? Like, are you looking for houses? This is what this money is going for, and then full court press to say, you gotta go before the CPC and get your money for this stuff.
Right.
It's just, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I
'Cause you-
just did quick math, they'd be well above the 10%.
Yeah, there's no question about
too,
that.
by the way. I didn't even realize that myself. So anyway, those are just my thoughts. You know, there's no easy fix here.
No, I mean, you know, so these projects are voted in one article, and we have one recommendation, either to recommend the article or to not recommend the article from the Finance Committee. So it's really an all or nothing situation here. So, go ahead.
Sorry. However, I mean, on the floor of town meeting, someone could make a motion to amend this article to
Someone
remove those
could.
two
Yeah,
items, right?
of course.
But my procedural question was, we wouldn't do that now. If we
No.
wanted to say that, we would not
No.
try and do something like that. Okay.
Nope.
but to follow that through, if someone did that, would we have an opportunity to huddle and decide if we then want to flip our vote to favorable?
I think we could, let me think about this.
How about this?
I don't think so.
Maybe, maybe not. Those are questions, I guess,
Right.
great
Well-
questions for Mark, for our town moderator
Yeah.
to ask, because he would know procedurally. But I know that if we decided to vote unfavorably, if we did that, you could always do it with an explanation.
We could.
You know, with either a paragraph, or even at town meeting, saying, you know, we're doing this because of this. And that's all. I mean, it's not like it's not even a vote, you know, the town meeting votes. It's just like, this is how we feel about this. And
Yeah.
it certainly isn't the first time something like that has happened. We've had tons of school budgets that were disapproved by
sure.
the Finance Committee. And it's because, you know, it's all or none, and there's, you know, a bunch of it that they just said, no, we don't like these things, that current Finance Committee. You know, and then you get an opinion from them.
Procedural question. So what happens if we vote it down or unfavorable? Do they have to then come up with a new proposal?
No, it's
This is
just a
just-
recommendation of the finance committee to the voting public at town meeting.
Okay.
So that when they read the
So
warrant
it's either
article.
favorable or unfavorable?
That is correct,
Right.
yes.
It'll,
That's-
Okay.
it'll literally say in the town warrant that it's handed out, it'll say select board recommendation.
Okay.
And then finance committee recommendation.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep,
And,
no problem.
I mean, and it's like, I don't even know how it works with maybe you would know, Regina, in the select board, how they vote on something like this. And I'm not even confident that you can't cherry pick. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to. So, here's where I was going to land on this. I'm going to make my recommendation and see what you guys think. Let's hold off on voting on this article tonight. Let's do I will do a little homework.
Okay,
We have another meeting before town meeting, and we have the meeting right before town meeting. We can always announce our recommendation at town meeting.
That's
It
correct,
doesn't
yes.
have to be in the
Yep.
warrant article printed before. So, we have some more time here. Give me a chance to look into this, the procedures, the proper way to do this. I get the sense, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I get the sense that this is a prevailing thought of the committee. Would that be accurate?
I mean, my inclination would go look at, you go find a workaround. I mean, is it too late to go work with the Community Preservation Committee? And
Yeah,
say, hey, look, this
it
thing's
is.
in danger of going down.
they made their vote. They'd have to bring, I don't even.
Yeah,
But in
they're-
light of new information, they might change their vote. Where's the select board on this, do we know?
We don't, no.
We don't.
They
That-
make their own recommendation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
We don't have a
important.
sense of that, or,
No, it's important.
and I don't think that's a violation of public meeting law to ask.
No, but I think it's important that this committee makes their recommendation independent of the select board.
Select board will say the same thing. Has the FinCom voted yet?
Right. So
Nothing wrong with that.
with.
No, it's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
So is everybody okay with that? If let's pass on this one tonight?
Yeah, let's
Let me
punt,
take it
sure.
back and do some research
Yeah.
and bring it back.
Yes. Can I just another point though?
Absolutely.
At town meeting, let's just, for sake of argument, say that we had unfavorable action. I mean, the options that could play out at town meeting are one, there's a vote and it just, let's say it doesn't pass for whatever reason. Then what happens? Then can someone make a motion to amend it to something else and we vote again? Or is it just dead and all this money just sits in the
Yeah,
CPC for a year and none of these things happen?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think that's why.
Because, I mean, I wouldn't want to kill all these other great projects
That's right.
because
Right.
of this.
Which is why I'm suggesting that we hold
Okay,
off on
fine.
making a recommendation and let's get some answers to these.
Yeah, okay.
Right, because, I mean, we could sit here all night coming up with any
Right.
very possible scenario of what could happen at town
Yes.
meeting, and
Sure.
I'd rather not do that. So let me take it back, let me ask some pointed procedural questions and historic questions and come back and let me come back and we'll come back to the meeting and I'll report out what I've found and we can have a further discussion on that. Does that sound fair to everybody?
I have another suggestion. Could we also have the committee come back? I mean, I know that
Yes.
people had raised questions when they presented to us, but I think if we have them, I think it might be worthwhile to have them come back again and say, well, not only do we have concerns, but we're actually leaning toward voting against this, and give them yet another chance to maybe defend why they made these choices.
Yeah, I can look into that too, for sure.
That's a great idea.
That'd be good.
Yeah, because I would feel more
This might mean-
comfortable. Yeah, I hadn't really thought that much about it. I hear all your points,
Yeah.
and for me, if I think about a trade-off of a stone wall versus more housing for people, I would pick more housing for people too.
Right.
I just don't know if that's really the trade-off that we're really talking about
Yeah.
with the way the rules work and all of that. So I would really like to hear from them and have them defend again why they're
Yeah.
suggesting these couple
I
of
mean,
projects.
Great.
just as a matter here, like, Brian is no longer on the CPC.
Yeah,
because
Bill
he just-
Callahan is-
Bill Callahan, but either one of them could speak to it, and I would actually, Brian is so incredibly well-informed, and he spoke before that he was a joy to have here. I mean, the two of them come back here
Guys,
was great.
Brian's already got a swollen head. I don't
No,
think
I
you
know.
need to-
No, he really,
I don't
it was
think you
just,
need to make it
he's so
worse,
knowledgeable. He's been doing it a long time, so it was really easy, and he was
Yeah.
filled with information, so that was really.
All right, so we're going to hold off on Article 19. All right, that was a good, that's what these things are for, so thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. All right, Article 20 is to set salaries and compensation of elected officials. These are no different than they have been in prior years, to my knowledge.
I'll move favorable recommendation on Article 20, salaries and compensation of elected
second?
officials.
Second by Nancy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will formally, favorably recommend Article 20. Article 21 is the revolving fund spending limits. For fiscal year '24. Anybody have any questions, comments? Yeah?
Do we get to see any of these numbers? Are they buried in here? Because I've been looking for, like, for example, I was looking for the free cash transfer. I'm looking in the budget book for,
They should all be in there, yeah. Yeah. Yep. I can help you.
On the revolving funds you're asking specifically?
well, on this particular one, I'm asking for the revolving fund.
Are you?
But I don't know if I
you're-
saw a
Did
listing.
you scroll down into,
I did see the revolving funds someplace in there.
did you scroll down to the actual warrant article where you can see?
Oh, you know what? I was having, wasn't coming up on my screen. That was,
Oh,
that
yeah,
was my
there's a-
problem.
Page 23.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that explains it, because this is what I was getting was blanks
Yeah.
on my screen.
Gotcha, okay.
And that was the root of my confusion.
No worries.
Like, what are we doing?
It seems to be that kind of night tonight,
You're like, what am I just?
you know? And I'm
it's
gonna
okay.
take the blame for that because I started it off.
Yeah, okay,
It's just
okay.
that kind of night tonight.
Great, great.
All right, so we have a motion.
I will move favorable action on article, that we recommend favorable action on Article 21.
Do we have a second? Second by Chris. You good, Ken? Yeah. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, so we will recommend a favorable report on Article 21. Article 22 is appropriation of the general fund for fiscal year '24. We did.
Oh, well, we voted to.
We voted yeah, we need to vote on this particular,
We didn't do the favorable action vote.
right.
All right.
We have
I
to
move-
do, all of these we've seen before and talked
Yes,
about and voted.
At length. I
Right.
recommend favorable action, that we recommend favorable action on Article 22, the appropriation of the general fund for fiscal '20.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Keith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will favorably recommend Article 22. Article 23 is an appropriation of the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year '24.
Recommend favorable action.
Do we have a second? Second. Keith, and then, thank you. And then
This line continues.
Dustin, it really does. I don't know what my problem is tonight. Seconded by Dustin. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. The ayes have it, and we will favorably recommend Article 23. Article 24 is an appropriation of the sewer wait, did we? No, we did water. This is a sewer enterprise fund for fiscal year '24. Do we have a motion of action on that one, or recommendation?
Recommend favorable action.
Keith recommends favorable action. Do we have a second? Second over here. I think it was Nancy. Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Article 24, we will recommend favorable action. Article 25 is the Stevens Estate Special Purpose Revolving Fund. So if you remember, the town manager and town finance director came in and explained to us the need for this. Yeah. So do we have a recommendation?
And this is because we closed the enterprise fund?
Yes.
When we, yeah.
Yep. And this was,
Sorry for the-
if I'm not mistaken, this was a special request of the State Department of Revenue to do it this way, right?
Yes.
Yep, requirement, sorry, not a recommendation, a requirement. Do we have a favorable recommend?
Favorable recommendation
And do we have
on
a
Article
second?
25.
Second by Chris. Eva with the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, Article 26. Article 26 is the transfer of funds not to exceed $480,000 from free cash to the fiscal year 2023 general fund. Just making sure I have the date right on that one. Thank you. Do we have a recommendation on that one? You
One question,
can,
can you
yeah.
just remind us, Lynn, what is the balance that we're, the balance, the 480 is coming from what balance? I think it was around,
Actually, it's about 479,000, but we want to
Give a little wiggle
give a
room.
little, right, give a little cushion there. And that's basically the fund from last year that the DOR made us close out, which fell to free cash, and we needed to pay for all the expenses that occurred this year to replenish and pay us back basically for it.
So
but what
we-
is the free cash balance, the current free cash balance? That's what I'm
For
asking.
the town's free cash, full balance?
Yeah.
A little over 12 million we
Okay,
had.
that's
Yep.
what I was asking, thank you.
But so then why are we transferring it to the general fund and not to the revolving?
Because we haven't created the revolving fund yet?
Oh.
We haven't created the revolving fund, and that's to pay for the expenses that we've, and the costs that, to run this, to pay for the repairs of Stevens Estate in 2023.
Oh, right, that we
So we've been
already-
funding it
okay.
through the operating budget, now we have to replenish it and put it back.
Right, right.
Yep, so we don't have a deficit at the end of the year.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes, okay.
All right, do we have a recommendation on that one? Or a motion for a recommendation?
I'll move to recommend favorable action on Article 26.
Great. Do we have a second? Eva seconds. Do we have, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we favorably recommend Article 26. Article 27 is transfer funds from overlay surplus to fiscal year 2024 general fund. This article would transfer excess funds from the assessor's overlay surplus account, which is no longer needed for potential abatements, and would allow the assessor to use those funds in order to fund Department of Assessing needs. Would anyone believe I just pulled that out of my head?
Nicely done.
No.
I move that we recommend favorable action on Article 27.
We have a second by Chris. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, we will recommend favorable action on that one. Article 28, transfer to stabilization. So this is a vote to transfer $299,567 from the available funds or free cash into the stabilization fund. I could magically come up with an explanation of that one too, if people needed it. Yeah,
I move we approve Article 28.
great. Thank you, Ken. Do we have a second? Second by Regina. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we will recommend favorable action on that one. Article 29 is the transfer to capital stabilization to see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, and transfer $350,000 from available funds or free cash into the capital stabilization fund. Do we have a motion for that one?
Favorable action on Article
Eva.
29.
Thank you, Eva. And a second? Regina. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will recommend favorable action for 29. Article 30 is the transfer to Public Works capital account for rolling stock. So to see, I remember this one, the Public Works needed a rolling stock fund to purchase items that are regular requests, if I remember correctly. Right. Yes, it is under the threshold for the capital, plan.
So that account already exists, but we just haven't been funding it in the past? I don't remember that.
It's not a fund, it's not an account that we have, it was just, they put it in their operating budget and it was skewing, we really shouldn't have had it in operating. But it
Okay.
fell under the threshold to go into the capital.
But in years past, it would have been
In
in
the
the
operating,
operating
yeah.
budget?
Yes.
They're saying best practices are to do it
I
this
think
way.
we're leaning towards doing this on an annual basis now because it skews the operating budgets,
Yeah,
and it,
okay.
This seems to be a cleaner way to articulate what these funds are being used for.
So it's a capital account, but
It'll
it's
go
not
in
going to
there.
go in the capital.
It doesn't
Budget
meet
because
that
it's
threshold.
not
Does
too
it will
small.
go into a
Got it.
capital
Right,
account.
okay.
Yep.
that make sense?
Yeah,
You good?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a recommendation on Article 30? Thank you, Nancy. We have a second, Keith?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And the ayes have it. We will favorably recommend that one. Article 31 is done. Yeah, I'm done. Guys, jumping all over me. Man, I've been messing up all night, and that's the one you choose to jump over me for? I like you guys. All right, so we are through with that portion of the agenda. That's wrong thing, so give me 1 second just to get back to minutes. Warrant, FinCom agenda. All right, so we are done on that. So we are at a discussion of the warrant letter. I know that we have received, some of you have very graciously already completed your assignments. We thank you for that. And I would encourage you all to get going, please.
That the due date, well, I know it's good to get it early, but April 17th, is that correct? Is that the day we came up with?
I thought it was April 6th for a draft.
Oh,
Six.
April 6th.
5th or 6th, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I
Yep.
don't know why
I think the
said that.
17th is when we need the final
Okay,
in.
okay.
And I think, so Chris and I need a little time to get it
Okay.
all together.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I
stuff.
had read that in my calendar, and then I thought, that sounds awfully late, so I wanted to double check.
12th?
Yeah.
Does that change?
I asked Laura today, she doesn't have it in hand.
Okay, then, as soon as possible.
By
Yeah,
when?
so can we,
This weekend.
12th.
it's the 12th now, it's changed, thank you.
No, so that means she has to have it by the 12th.
Right, so we need it sooner.
So we need it
By the
really as soon as you can
5th.
get it to us.
We can still do it by the 5th, but the sooner the
Well, our
better.
next meeting, we were going to review it as a group, right, in the meeting? That's what we usually
I think.
do.
That is what we
so-
usually do.
Yeah. So anything you can put together would be greatly appreciated as soon as you can, and I can at least order them and put them into some sort of a document, and
Yeah, and I will follow up with
Ask
everybody in
AI
email
to
to
make it look
confirm the timing. All right, any other discussion on that one? Yes, thank you.
Sorry, this is just a nit point, but where would we find this rolling stock thing? In the capital section?
Nope.
It's in the operating budget section under, I just don't remember it. Remind myself.
Yeah. Okay, so, our last. Yeah, that's what I was gonna tell you that after the meeting. She has an
Okay.
explanation of it. in her
Okay,
letter.
perfect.
Yeah.
I'll look at that.
That'll be much easier. Okay, so the last order of business is the approval of our minutes from our March 20th meeting. I believe they are in the pack, in our meeting Google Drive. Thank you. Man, I'm just, I was not at that meeting, so I will abstain from voting, but I would still call for a motion. I was still able to call for a motion if someone has one.
Sure, I'll approve. I move we approve the minutes from the March 20th, 2023 Finance Committee
Do
meeting.
we have a second?
Second.
Second by Keith. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I-
Any opposed? Ayes have it, that has been approved. And we just need one more motion tonight, folks.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, second by Dustin. Boy, those ones were awfully quick. Where were you 20 minutes ago, guys?
Like pulling teeth getting motion.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay, the ayes have it. We are officially adjourned at 8 PM. Thank you, everybody.